Thanks for having me. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, yeah.
So I teach at a school right down the road, so thank you for letting me cut class today. So as you guys, Mr. Good, Professor Good, said, I'm a full-time band director. I teach band and orchestra, but I'm also a freelance percussionist and a composer. And today I'd like to talk to you about graphic scores because that's a unique um, area of composition that maybe not a lot of people have gotten into or know about. Out of curiosity, who knows what a graphic score is? Has anyone encountered them? So this is brand new for most of you. Yes. All right, let me pull this up. Now I teach middle school, so if you want to just raise your hand at any point and just be like, "Hey, Katie, I've got a question," feel free to do so. My kids are very curious at school, and so I hope to bring curiosity here. So I grew up in the Lake Tahoe area, which is Northern California, and so I grew up in an area with lots of nature, taking hikes, skiing, and so a lot of my practice has to deal with nature itself. Okay, and I try to be out in nature as much as I can when I'm in LA because I live here or elsewhere. Okay, graphic scores. In a nutshell, graphic scores are a non-traditional way of notating music. Okay, we're trying to find other ways versus here's a quarter note, here's a half note, here's a whole note. But instead, it's interpreting like lines, drawings, texts. Okay, on a piece of paper. It could be anything else. Okay, usually there's a guideline. Okay, it could be I want you to interpret this line this way, or I want you to play for at most 10 minutes, maybe 20, and it could be the pages in any direction. So it is a vehicle for improvisation. How many of you guys here are in the jazz program? Yeah, so you guys are used to improvising a little bit, yeah? Okay, so this is another way to use improv. Okay, and I'm gonna actually pass out some goodies for you guys at the end if you wanna try it in your own practice of improvising. That's for you, okay? And so in my graphic score practice, I usually go on hikes and I take my camera and I collect natural materials. So this could be 6 flowers. You can see a little flower here. And I lay it on a piece of paper and I don't try to cover what's there, but I augment what's already there. Okay, because so for me, the most important object is the natural one. Okay, my work of the drawings next to it is not more important than the natural object, if that makes sense. And then I put it on a piece of paper and I photograph it. As simple as that. There are some where I don't use natural objects, but this is my current composition style, if that makes sense so far. Okay. Yeah, moving on. Any questions thus far? Yeah.
It's a natural object. Could it be like a bowl of fruit?
Yeah, could be a bowl of fruit. I don't usually get fruity, but sticks, stones. Recently, I've collected on a walk on the beach shells. Yeah. So what I'm going to show you next is just a series of scores not created by me, by composers throughout history, and just to show you that it's a newer practice, but not that new. So the first one in history, I'm not going to also, by the way, go into each one of these because that's going to take forever. So I'm just going to show you a few favorites and important ones throughout history and then move on to playing because that's more fun. So this is Morton Feldman's projection number 1, and this is the quote-unquote first graphic score we've seen in history. It's from the 50s, so it's not that old. And this one's kind of like, I don't know, it feels like a layout to me, like a house layout. And so I'd be curious to hear people's impression of this. Next. This one's from John Cage. Does anyone know who John Cage is? Yeah, a few of you. Very, very famous. This one you can see he actually did do a timestamp up here. So 0 seconds. Okay, we're gonna go on by the time I get to this cartoon image. Okay, I'm at 5, 10, 15, and so forth. Okay. Uh, I would love to hear it. There's many, many recordings of this. You can find it on YouTube. It's called Water Walk. Going on through history, 1966 with Kathy's piece, you can kind of see that she used like a 3-line staff, almost musical notation, but then used a bunch of images and text in a cartoonized way. And this could be solo person, it could be a group of people. Okay, if people actually, I'd probably have my middle schoolers read this for fun, hear what do they say with some of these words, or how you would interpret it with your instrument. This is George Crumb's Spiral Galaxy in 1972. He actually uses notation, but then bends it. And this one is the 12th movement in this piece. Yeah, this one's wild. Don't worry, they get even more wild. Yeah, so nothing too complex here. He's still using, you can see notation. Okay, but we're just wrapping it around. Yeah, questions?
Yeah, I heard some whispers near me asking, why would a composer do this? Like,
Yeah, that's a great question.
for like philosophical or practical reasons?
Most of the time, I'm gonna walk this way because you guys are all up in the corner, so I'm gonna come to you.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. So, why would a composer do this? They want to break a barrier. They want to explore something new. If it's earlier, like the 50s, 60s, 70s, chances are it was right after a war. And they're tired of being confined in a square in a bubble. And they want to do something new. And actually, if you go back, and I kind of wish I included it, if you look at Beethoven's piano sonata and the way he notated it, it's like a sketch. It's not fully written down. It's like kind of all over the page. There is notes there, but it's like a draft. And that's how it was originally written. Someone went back and was like, okay, here it is. Okay, yeah, question?
Is there any relationship between this work and some like late medieval, early music scores? Because I know like some rondos and other certain like this, it doesn't seem brand new. Like there's definitely been a use of different shapes for scoring in the past.
Yeah, exactly. In the medieval times, you see all the, what are they called, nodes, the squares. Yeah, thank you. And so it's a very Western idea. We're one of the few cultures in the Western areas that actually notates music. Everywhere else has more of a oral way of keeping track of music. So we're always trying to find ways throughout history of putting it on paper. So you do see glimpses throughout history, even dating back then, of transcribing. Yeah.
So to add on to the previous question, I suppose, previous 2 questions, I've heard from a composer that your job as a composer is not to ask, can I do this, but rather to just ask to have it be done. Like if you want, I don't know, 2 trombones facing each other on opposite sides of the stage, you should do it. Or I guess the attitude would be, why not?
Yeah. Well, that's the whole purpose of this, right? Can I bend it?
I'm wondering about the why not here. Do you think it was probably written in this way to elicit something within the performer?
Yeah, I think that's totally an avenue of why they did something like this. And this is totally a why not. Okay, have I seen it before? No. Let's try it. And that's with my graphics course using nature. I don't know if I've seen too much of that. And I said, why not? Okay, I'm gonna try it out and see how I can interpret it. And we'll get a little bit more into that. Any other questions on this?
I just wanted to, one
Yeah.
last comment.
Uh-huh.
composed, I think it was a Kravitz canon, which is a piece that can be read on a Mobius strip,
Yeah.
which was, I just found that entertaining.
Yeah, yeah.
As another object to read music off of.
Yeah, totally. All right, here's the next one. Brian Eno's Music for Airports. I believe this one has been performed at LAX at one point or another. And interestingly enough, he performed this piece first and recorded it, and then did the transcription. So this was an improvisation, then backwards done as a graphic score, and now people perform it with the score in front of them. Okay. And this one, you can see it was written almost like you would with music notation. You have 3 lines, okay? We're not straying too far off, except for there's no quarter notes, eighth notes, half notes. So that's almost the 80s. This one, someone just had fun in finale. So this one's 2006. It's almost like your cat sat on the keyboard, and we're like, what would my cat write? I've never performed this one. I'd be curious to hear an improvisation of it. It is interesting that they did include the staves. Yeah. You could, I don't know. I'd love to hear a version of it. This one stresses me out, so I might stay away from it. Going to 2008, Wadada Leo Smith, Symphony Number 1. This guy is a trumpet player. He's very famous. He's in LA. He's still alive. We add a lot of color. Okay, we're at this point we've seen a lot of this motion. Now we're starting to see more rounded objects. Still some horizontal lines, but it's interesting to see more with color to reflect emotions. Maybe it sparks something in you as a performer. Getting to modern day. This is 2018. You can actually see at the top, possibly if you can read it, that this is a piano solo. So the composer did say, I do want it for piano, and it's gonna be max 40 minutes. So whatever you do in your improv, you gotta stop at 40 minutes. Yeah, 40 minutes, one instrument only. Okay, and they do have some interesting markings. Like they put a triangle here and says that's 190. Okay, it's not a quarter note. Up there is an eighth note. So at the beginning, they do want it fast at 120. Some parts loud. Some parts are soft. There's another loud moment. So they do give indication for dynamics here and tempo. And then you can take liberties elsewhere. But if I were to interpret this, I'd say, hey, where would I start? Would I start from the top? Would I start from the bottom? Okay, she didn't tell me that I had to start anywhere in specific. Maybe I want to start right in the middle. And then maybe I want to work my way around. And it's probably fine if I don't hit every single portion of this piece. That would take forever. Okay, maybe you're playing, if this wasn't a piano solo, maybe you're playing with 3 or 4 other people. Maybe each person takes a corner and you meet in the middle. Last one. This is actually a friend of mine, and they wrote this. It was a commission from the LA Phil. And so the LA Phil performed it 2 years ago. And I included this because not only is it an amazing drawing, but it's not just like a silly idea. Graphics course, I think sometimes it gets a bad rap of just like, hey, they're doodles. But institutions such as the LA Phil themselves do take it seriously. And this was a huge performance. So I didn't want to put it up there. There might be a recording of it on YouTube. So I would check it out. And at any point, if you want to see these scores again, just afterwards, come on up. I can show you more, okay? Questions so far? Yeah.
Just a brief comment. Chaparral, as I've learned, not a lot of people know this. Chaparral is the name of the natural biome of the area of Los Angeles.
Yes, very, very good. And this is partly this is another topic for later, but part of the reason they commissioned it for the LA Phil was that exact reason. Very, very good. 2023. So just 2 years ago. These are some of my works. They're a lot more colorful. I get tired of black and white on paper. I have about 50 of them. These are just a few that I've included. Some of them have drawings, some of them don't. Some of I've changed in Photoshop to black and white. But I try not to make it too fancy. Okay, I don't try to totally change it in Photoshop. I just try to capture the natural object as is. I'm going to show you a couple samples of work. So that was one. This one is just a trailer for a video that Professor Gooden and I did as a percussion duo. So there's a company called Music for Your Inbox, and they do monthly mail and videos to your email. So even you guys could do one at some point. We were the highlight for November, and so we made this video in collaboration with Music for Your Inbox, and we're the background sound. And then they sent out this postcard, and we actually used the graphic score from this postcard in the video. I'm going to play you a trailer of it. It's about a minute long. The whole video is probably 15 or 20 minutes. We're actually doing a screening tonight in downtown. And you guys want to go to a movie night, they're showing about 3 or 4 videos. And then at the end, if you would like one, I've actually brought a bunch of the postcards. So you can take some home. Yeah, free stuff. Everyone loves free stuff. And, try reading the graphics score on your own. So don't forget to get them at the end, okay? So here's the clip. Thank you. So that piece was about Eaton Canyon before the fires. And do you guys know where Eaton Canyon is? It's towards Pasadena over in that mountain range. And Eaton Canyon was on a list that said do not go. It's overpopulated. Don't go there. Don't hike there. And so that's what this piece is about. We wanted to highlight the actual beauty of the mountains. And slowly over the 15, 20 minutes of the piece, trash is removed so you can see the beauty of it. All right, I'm going to play for you guys. This is the one I will show you today. It's called Great Lake Diaries, entry number 1. So all my pieces, I like to function of them as diaries. And so whenever I go to a new place, I do a few hikes and I collect samples and then I use them as entries. So this was the first one. We went to Michigan a few years ago. Yeah, and there's not much I have to say about this one. I'm curious to see how you will figure out I'm going to read this at the end. I'm going to play it on solo vibraphone. Enjoy. just out of curiosity, was anyone able to follow along a little bit? Anyone want to take a guess where I started? Yeah.
Qualities. My guess is you started from the bottom and worked your way up.
Yeah, that's a good guess. I actually did the opposite. That's okay. I started at the top, and I started at the top of the vibraphone as well.
I was going to say the same thing because I noticed the way you trail off at the end kind of acted the same way as the thing trailing off the corner of the picture.
Yeah, very, very good. Any other observations? Yeah.
It also started like super dry, and I was like, oh yeah, that's just.
Yes. So that was like a emotional interpretation, right? Yeah. So not everything has to be super literal. Some things I did literal, like the black dots. Okay, did anyone notice that? Yeah.
Seemed like the kind of that like the very staccato dropping sort of sensation or sound were kind of the dots, the connectors between different sections.
Yeah, very, very good. Anything else? Yeah.
Those repeated fifths you did. That was my interpretation of the dots. Is that correct?
Yeah, very, very good. And that's just what I felt like playing at the moment. That's what, when I was playing the very opening, I thought those, the black dots were very different. So I wanted to have a different sound quality to it, different tonality. And so that was the natural objects, were in different scales versus the black dots, okay? Anything else? All right, I'm going to invite Professor Good out, and we're going to do one more piece. And this is a piece we've been working on together. So I'll give it up for Professor Good. So we've been working on this piece, and there's many volumes at this point. This is one iteration of it. It's called Trails and Topographies. So whenever we go on hikes, I collect natural material. Professor Good here writes the trail melody. So he actually uses notation, and you can kind of see in this snippet, this is one snippet of what we're gonna do today, of it blended. So you do see notation, that's Kevin's part, and then the natural objects, that's my part. And so we have a bunch of these that we've been doing. If you wanna see them at the end, we'll happily show them to you. But it's a cool way to improv, and we put them in cards. So we're gonna start on the same page together, but that doesn't necessarily mean we're gonna end it in the same spot in the middle, or we'll go to the same page. We have an idea of how we're gonna start, and we have an idea how we're gonna end, but some things will be undecided. You wanna say anything? Yeah, this one will probably be a little bit longer. And then at the end, if you wanna see scores, if you want to have your graphics scored, please come on up. I'm more than happy to show you, okay?
Thanks for being here. Do you have any questions for Cindy?
We got about 10 minutes, so if you guys have questions or if you just want to come on up and check out some of the scores, you're more than welcome to. Any questions? Yeah.
So is any instrument that can like work off this?
Yeah, any instrument. We just happen to be percussionists, so that's our forte. I'm not gonna go to my band room and try all instruments, but if it's your, whatever you specialize in, you can find what suits. Yeah.
No, I'm wondering because having listened to a wide range of free music, ranging from things like John Coltrane's Home to John Cage's 4 minutes and 33 seconds anyhow,
Yep.
as well as Spiral Galaxy. I'm wondering how much of like the repertoire for graphic scores is there for communicating more high energy music through and through, because I noticed from this score and a few others that I've heard, it's more focused on reflecting on the capacity of the human ear to hear.
Yeah.
Just noises for the sake of noises.
Sure. Honestly, I think it depends on what the composer's asking for, and then I think it also depends on who's playing, because everyone's gonna have a different personality and a different interpretation. So if you're like, hey, I want it to be more like a jazz ensemble, maybe you put it in front of a jazz combo. You're like, hey, let's see what they do with it. Because if you put it in front of a band, I'd be curious to see what a large ensemble orchestra would do with this, and it'd be totally different results, I think. So I think part of it is performer driven. Cool. Yeah.
This is so cool, first of all. I've never seen
Thank you.
this. I was wondering, since you're like a music educator yourself, like how do you think graphic scores could impact education? Like,
Yes.
especially for like, younger students, like to visualize something gives a feeling, like emotion, all that. I'm just curious.
Yeah, great question. So first of all, I am very much a visual learner. So anytime I can get the kids to visualize in all sorts of ways, the better. One activity I do with the kids is when we play a piece and they're working on it for months and months, is I actually have them like listen to the recording if they need a break. I have them listen to the recording and just draw it. What do they hear? What do they feel? Just draw what the emotion is. Okay, we're playing one piece called Appalachian Hymn, and it's about the mountains. So we haven't drawn that one yet, but I'm curious to see what it would be like if they're going to use a green mountain. Okay, maybe it's got snow on it. Maybe it's going to be white. Okay, or maybe it's night. It's going to be blue. Another activity I do with them, and this is more around testing time because they definitely are fried, is I have them go outside and I have them close their eyes for a minute and they listen to all their surroundings, and then I have them memorize it and then take 2 minutes to draw. Where was the school bus on this side? Oh, I hear kids playing over here. Okay, where's your surroundings? And it gives them to actually focus and be in the moment. So those are two different, very simple but very fun and engaging activities. But overall, like if kids, this is not just for college kids. This could be for anyone. Like you could put it in front of a 5-year-old and be like, yes, dot, dot, dot. You're like, yeah, you did it. But great question. Yeah.
I wanted to ask something. So I'm guessing that the darker it gets, the more percussion there is, and the lighter it gets, the more xylophone, marimba. I'm not too familiar with the instrument because I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
I've told this before. Is that correct? First off.
For this one?
Yes.
So we were playing this like as written, the beginning parts, and then in the middle, the colorful parts is when we did total improv, and we weren't sure how that was gonna go. And there was moments where it was super groovy. So like group music, not off limits. But yeah, that's when it got really detailed. And then we had those moments where we scale back and we're like, okay, we're done with that. Go to the next section. So we were totally together with that.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Conceptually, is correctness a concept you should abandon when interpreting graphical scores?
It depends on the composer and the interpretation. For me, if I say I want this piece to be 5 to 10 minutes, you can read it any way you want. It can be more than a few people, or no more than 5 people, then the rest is up to you.
And how is that how is that information communicated to the interpreter? Is it just through like word of mouth? Is it through
Program notes.
program?
Yeah, program notes.
This is more of like a technical question, but when you had a speed, like roll the strings
Yeah.
across the platform, what was that accomplish?
Were you guys able to hear the buzzing a little bit?
Yes.
Okay, that's what that was. This is just something I got from the hardware store, probably a few bucks. But at some point we figured it out and was like, this is a great noise. I have to use it. Wasn't sure if I was going to use it today or not, but I did. Any others?
What do rehearsals look like for the second music since a lot of things improvised?
Great question.
Question.
Yeah, I would say don't over rehearse. You can play it like once or twice with a group of people, but then after that, it's like you start understanding where you want to go with it, and then it becomes a rehearsal. And so if you want to keep in the improv land, like once or twice, lay down the ground rules, and then don't rehearse anymore. Yeah, it's not like in jazz where you rehearse the head, make sure that's solid, and then you can improv on top of that. Don't overdo it here. Yeah.
I would say though that we do rehearse this, but it's more of like rather than a rehearsal, it's a co-composing session. I think what essentially happens, and I can speak to this on this piece in particular since we did it together, could be totally different from certain pieces. The more notated they are, with traditional notation, maybe the more we'll interpret it strictly. Here, it was much more of a planning session and rehearsing like, okay, what do we want to do when we see traditional notation? Do we care what each other are doing? In some places, you'll see like on this page, we played all of the musical notation in exact unison. So the rehearsal was more of like general rehearsal etiquette and being good at like unisons together is the things we need to rehearse. And then these kind of blotchy colors, we came up with ideas that we were going to do. I knew I was going to lean towards cymbals and have a little bit of snare drum to kind of cover the yellow sections. But I did not care what Katie was going to do in that section. So some of that is improv for the sake of improvisation, using the ear in part of that. So as we mentioned, it got a little groovy. It doesn't always happen that way, but we were just listening to each other and a consistent pulse kind of arose out of that. But even if there's not like as much rehearsal, a lot of that is built into the groundwork of the composition. This is the third time we've played this. We played it today. We played it up in Santa Clarita at a music store a couple weeks ago, and then we played it on this big festival of my music back in February. And if I played recordings of each of those, you would hear how they're the same piece. We pre-plan enough and rehearse or compose together the structures of things, and then the part we don't over-rehearse is when we arrive at those structures, how are we gonna move through them? So there is like a cool idea here in that like you can make a graphic score in different ways, represented sonically, right? So that it's not just free improvisation. You can do it in a way where every time we play this piece, you can tell it's the same piece. You can recognize it just like any other tune, but in a different kind of capacity and a different consistency. Yeah, it's back.
Any others? Well, thanks guys. I appreciate you guys being here. There's some cards up here for you guys.